Well, thank you very much, everybody, and thank you, Angela, for that introduction. And I am truly honored to be invited here tonight as the first president in American history to address the Libertarian National Convention.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Speechless. I'm your host, Kev Phares, 23-year-old conservative activist, host of Speechless, the radio show, and the podcast right here on YouTube. Here for our Sunday special. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. And don't forget, before we get to all the good stuff, everything we're going to talk about tonight, like Donald Trump addressing the Libertarian National Convention, RFK Jr. addressing the Libertarian National Convention, Nicki Minaj getting arrested, Josh Bender hopefully joining the show to talk about some fun things. Stay tuned for that and so much more. Make sure that you guys, to not miss a minute of any of it, that you like this video, no matter where you're watching from. If you're on Twitter right now, X, whatever you call it, like the video. If you're on YouTube, hit that thumbs up, comment what you think, be involved in the show. That's what this is all about. And I want you guys to be involved in so many different ways. So make sure you're involved by commenting, subscribe to the channel, follow me everywhere at Speechless Kev, follow at Breakaway USA, which is the overall podcasting org I'm a part of, and reshare this. Share this with your friends. Share it with your friends that love Donald Trump, hate Donald Trump, love me, hate me. Who cares? Get this to as many people as possible, because we're going to cover news here in a way that the lamestream media doesn't want you to know. So buckle up, everybody. We're going to have a fun night tonight. We're going to talk about a lot of things. And if you're thinking to yourself, I think the camera actually does me pretty good justice this week. But if you think to yourself, hey, Kev, you look a little red this week, you're a racist. It's because I'm Irish and the sun has been out recently. So don't be racist. Seriously, I'm kidding. But let's get right on into it, everybody. As I mentioned, and as we saw in that very first video, former President Donald Trump urged the Libertarian Party members on Saturday to support his campaign in the 2024 election this November. During his remarks at the Libertarian Convention in Washington, D.C., which drew some boos from the audience, Trump said he was asking for a, quote, partnership to defeat Joe Biden, among other things. But let's take a look and a listen to this clip right here from Trump's speech after he was introduced and everything like that right here.
First time in U.S. history that a presidential candidate of a rival party will address the convention of a party that is presumably gathering to nominate its own candidate. Now I think you should nominate me, or at least vote for me, and we should win together. You heard those words. Nominate me or vote. Vote for me. Because the Libertarians want to vote for me, and most of them will. And it's very important. Because we have to get rid of the worst president in history. And together we will. And without it, there's a risk that we could have 4 more years. We won't have a country left. So what is the purpose of the Libertarian Party getting 3%? What is the reason to take a chance of having this horrible president destroy our country, which he will do in far less than 4 years? It's not going to take 4 years. That is why I'm committing to you tonight that I will put a libertarian in my cabinet and also libertarians in senior posts. Pretty good. That's pretty big. Or you can keep going the way you have for the last long decades and get you 3%, then meet again, get another 3%. No, you want to make yourself winners. It's time to be winners. You have a lot of common sense. It's time to be a winner.
Man, he gets to a lot in just that minute and a half-ish clip. And he talks about exactly what's going on with the Libertarian Party and how they actually have a fascinating opportunity this upcoming election cycle to be a part of something. And he asks for a partnership. He asks to bring people together. Remember now, Donald Trump back in 2016 never once said, oh, I'm going to be the unifying president. I'm going to bring the country together. No. His whole thing was build the wall and we're going to take back this country for the American people. That's what he was going to do. And that's what he tried to start doing. And then obviously he was inundated with the swamp, with COVID, with so many different things, with attack upon attack upon attack, simply because of how he was governing, because he was genuinely for the people and not for the uniparty. Well, now he comes out and he's coming and saying, hey, let's be the unifying president. He's even saying that because Joe Biden comes in, says he's going to be the unifying president, and then his Department of Justice becomes weaponized against Donald Trump and against Trump supporters, period. And so Donald Trump says, hey, I'm going to give you an opportunity. I'm going to do something. I am going to help you, give you a chance to actually be on the country's stage in a more equal measure. But of course, many libertarians, to them, it's not actually about winning, gaining power, anything like that. It's about basically an anarchy, which is essentially libertarianism is anarchy with 1 to 2 rules. But they all disagree with each other and they all got problems. And that's why you see there's libertarians that are going back and forth on Trump. But the thing is that ultimately Donald Trump, while facing heat from some people that are allegedly paid actors in the audience, he ended up winning a lot of the hearts of the Libertarian Convention after vowing to commute Ross Ulbricht's prison sentence. And if you don't know who Ross Ulbricht is, well, Ross Ulbricht is serving life imprisonment for creating and operating the darknet market website Silk Road from 2011 until his arrest in 2013. Basically is condemned to die in prison because he operated this site. But this is Donald Trump announcing his commutation. And listen to the crowd when he announces his commutation of Ross Ulbricht's sentence. Here's that.
On day one, I will commute the sentence of Ross Ulbricht to a sentence of time served.
Many of the signs that are blocking out Trump say Free Ross on them.
He's already served 11 years. We're going to get him home. On day one.
So he gets a lot of people. He starts even getting people to scream, Free Ross, Free Ross, Free Ross. And he gets people onto his side in many ways for saying things such as this, for making relatively reasonable promises to the crowd. Now, there's a lot of people before this speech, they had a lot of speculation. There was people, including people like Laura Loomer and others, that were saying Trump was being ambushed. Trump had a lot of people, and they were about to ambush him. They were about to, they were going to just boo him, make him look like a fool, blah, 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 blah. But if you know Donald Trump, he wasn't going to let that happen. He wasn't going to let that happen. Trump spoke for about 33 minutes, one of his shortest speeches I've ever heard of. And he made several promises if he was reelected to the White House. He vowed to commute the sentence of the Silk Road founder, Ross Ulbricht, who I just mentioned. He vowed to put together a special task force to review and eventually pardon January 6th prisoners, which is an issue of which a lot of libertarians care about, not because they're necessarily Trump supporters, but because they stand on principle of the idea that many of those that were at January 6th were within their legal right to do what they were doing. And then he also vowed, Trump, as we heard in one of our first clips that I played, he vowed to put libertarians in positions of leadership. Trump didn't have to do any of this. And I'm going to get to that a little bit later, but remember that Trump didn't have to do any of this. What I do want to discuss before I get to that is that this is overall good for Trump, which he realizes, but it should be overall good for libertarians as well. In fact, the Libertarian Convention, because Trump went and spoke at it, received some of the highest viewership that it ever did. I'll be honest with you, and this is deviating from my plan, but I'll be honest with you. Back in 2020, I was having conversation with family who they're a little bit more moderate than I am, and they were saying things like, oh man, I just think Trump is too mean. I just think Trump is too mean. What am I gonna like? I'm gonna have to do something. Trump is too mean. I can't vote for him. That's what they were saying back in 2020. And so I said, okay, you don't have to vote for Trump. If you're really that convinced, I could try to convince you. But if that's going to be a waste of my time, don't vote for Trump. Just go vote for Joe Jorgensen. And they were like, who's Joe Jorgensen? I was like, that's the Libertarian candidate. I was like, just don't vote for Joe Biden. You could vote for Joe Jorgensen. And they had no idea who I was talking about. Why? Because libertarianism is relatively irrelevant to 90% of well, approximately 97% of America, because they constantly only eat into maybe 3-ish% of the vote. But here's the thing, is now 3-ish% of the vote is not that much when that's all you're getting. But 3% of the vote is a lot when the margin of error on polls is 2 to 3%, and the difference between you and your opponent is 2 to 3%. And that's exactly what happens with the two major parties so often, is that the difference in your win is 2 to 3%, can be very often. And so what Trump is doing here is he's like, man, there's all these people out here who are just as unsatisfied. I was extended an invitation to go talk to these libertarians. I'm going to have a conversation with them, and I'm probably not going to win all of them. He knew he was going to be met with adversaries in the audience, but I'm going to go in there and I'm going to make my best case, and maybe I'll flip one or two. And from different tweets and social media that I've been seeing, there are some who went into the Libertarian Convention with less than favorable opinions of Trump and left with more than favorable opinions of Trump. And that was exactly what he needed to do. And again, this was also good for libertarians. Trump offered and said, I'm going to put libertarians in a place of power, because Trump's entire idea of his candidacy is not to be the most conservative. He's made that clear. He is not the most pro-life. On many social issues, he's not the most conservative. He's come out as very moderate on a lot of things, despite Democrats trying to frame him as being absolutely terrible and like as if he's going to put us into The Handmaid's Tale or something. No, Trump is relatively moderate for the most part. If you actually look at his stances, he is. And so he goes to these libertarians like, hey, I am running because I'm against the uniparty. I'm against the swamp, as a lot of people know it. I'm against that. And if you are too, then you should be against Joe Biden, and you should join me, because if you join me as Trump, as the candidate against the uniparty, you should nominate me, Trump, which is exactly what he asked for, and vote for me, because that's a win for everybody. And that's how it can be a win for libertarians. However, libertarians seem to have this thing where many of them aren't even necessarily about principle. They're not about winning. No, what they tend to be is purposefully contrarian, oftentimes, and like to go with a sense of an underdog that never actually has a chance for winning. Hi, Andrea. Thank you so much for joining. Everybody, leave me a comment. Let me know what you guys are thinking. I will make sure to get to your comments when I get to a break. Thank you, though. But libertarians don't want to win. Many of them, not all of them, but many of them. And so Trump will go into this arena where he knows he's not popular and leave relatively unscathed, honestly roasting some of them in the process. And in some ways, he's winning. Libertarians, this is your opportunity to actually win, to be taken seriously on the world stage, to actually gain some political points. And people might actually start taking you seriously if you insert yourself into a candidate and with a candidate that will actually win or have a chance of winning. A lot of libertarians were much more favorable, however, to traditional Democrat, which is weird to me. Libertarians are like not traditional Democrats at all, but independent candidate for president, RFK Jr. And so if we take a look and listen, because RFK Jr. just prior to the Trump speech, he went on stage, he talked, he handed out chickens that were supposed to be like, oh, Trump is too afraid to debate me. He's a chicken. You should use these on stage, whatever, blah, 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 blah. But this is what RFK Jr. had to say on one of the brief ways in which he made his pitch to libertarians prior to him ending his speech. Here is a look. Take a look and a listen at this clip of that speech.
Agree about many things. Many of you don't agree with me on a lot of stuff. But we all agree on one thing, which is we have to fight with the Bill of Rights. Without the Bill of Rights, we have nothing in this country. And we all need to be united because there are a lot of people out there that don't understand what America is supposed to look like. And the people in this convocation do. Our public officials have forgotten that vision for America. And it's time that we remind them. We can only do that by electing leaders who understand the necessity for personal sacrifices to preserve the Bill of Rights. That's the path to restoring our national greatness. That will be my promise to you as President of the United States. Thank you all very much, and God bless you.
So a lot of cheers there, which is really weird because if you consider the ideas that Kennedy has, many of them include more government overreach, and the staple of libertarianism is very much so like keep the government away from me as much as possible. And Kennedy, while he will pander, and that's the thing that he did. That's what Kennedy did when he promises things such as because he discussed Ross Ulbricht. He discussed Julian Assange. He talked about the vaccines. He went after Trump hard about COVID policy, which are valid criticisms. But what he was doing wasn't actually making any kind of policy promises. It wasn't actually setting up a platform that he firmly believes in. No, not JFK. Kennedy, RFK Jr., was on that stage to win political points. And so here's what happened is while you had your libertarians that were pointing to the difference between Kennedy's demeanor and Trump's demeanor at their convention. And they were like, well, Kennedy seemed like very open to our opinions as Trump was like, join me so that you're not the 3%. Like that was disrespectful, blah, blah, blah. But what they're not understanding, what their libertarian minds and their bubble of libertarianism is not allowing them to see is that they had completely different purposes. Trump and Kennedy had completely different purposes of being there. Like I said, Kennedy pandered significantly to libertarians. He attacked Trump on his handling of COVID-19 by allowing social distancing, masks, etc. He attacked a lot of the different ways in which our government has been overreaching. But the difference between these two speeches is not their demeanor. It's like I said, and it's also not that Kennedy is more favorable to libertarians or agrees with them more. No, it's that Kennedy needs libertarians, everybody. Kennedy needs libertarians. Trump knows he'll get some of them, as I stated, but he doesn't need them. He doesn't need them. Because they can go and vote for Kennedy. And Kennedy can move his 12 to 15% up to 15 to 18% at best. And Trump could still win. No, Trump went there to send a message. Trump went there to show, hey, I'll go someplace I know that I'm not the most welcomed. And I'll talk to you. And I'll have that conversation. I don't necessarily need you, but I was invited. And I believe that there is a reason for me to be here, not just to prove myself, but also to show you that I'm a viable option that you as a libertarian can choose. RFK Jr. went there because he needs to. RFK Jr. has accepted for everything that will get him a decent amount of views, besides my show, apparently, because I guess I don't get enough views. Hold tight, everybody. It will be. We'll get there. We'll get there. We'll start getting enough views. But RFK Jr. went on pretty much every podcast that accepted him, that would accept him. He went on pretty much every speaking engagement that would accept him. He's been all over the country. Why? Because he needs to. He'll go to the Libertarian National Convention and say whatever he needs to. Whatever he needs to. Once again, let's take a look at even just like 5 seconds of this video that we already watched, and watch when he speaks. Watch what he's doing. Watch. I'll show you. I'll point to it.
With the Bill of Rights, without the Bill of Rights, we have nothing in this country. And we all need to be united because there are a lot of people out there that don't understand what America is supposed to look like. And the people in this convocation do?
See, right there. Okay, when he's looking down at a teleprompter. He's looking down at a little TV screen like a karaoke box, and he's about to sing Don't Stop Believin'. That's basically what he's doing. He's reading words somebody else read for him. That's exactly what he's doing.
Our public officials have forgotten that vision for America.
Why is he reading that? Because he needs to pander to the libertarians. He doesn't care. He doesn't care about any of this. He's in it for money. He's in it for attention. He's not actually going to win, and he knows that. Compare that quickly to Trump.
The Libertarian Party should nominate Trump for president of the United States. Whoa.
I'll admit, some of this he does have a little bit of a teleprompter up there. I know that for a fact.
That's nice.
But then when he's getting booed, he goes completely off script. Oh, that's nice. That's nice.
That's nice.
That's nice. That's nice.
Only if you want to win. Only if you want to win. Maybe you don't want to win. Maybe you don't want to win.
Yep. Maybe you don't want to win. And that is the message that you should be sending. I want libertarians a part of the Big Ten. I agree with many libertarian ideology, with much of it, with a lot of it. Not all of it, but a lot of it. And its sentiment. But if you want to win, all aboard the Trump train, everybody. All aboard the Trump train. Choo, choo, choo. All aboard. We're going to bring you on under the Trump train. Choo, choo. And if you don't want to get on, get off and get out of our way, because it's going to steamroll right through Kennedy and Biden. It is. It is. I'm telling you, I know this to be a fact. It's going to. So get on, or get out of the way. And that's basically what Trump is saying right up there. Do what you want. I mean, be a libertarian. That's the entire idea of that, is do what you want. Be a libertarian. But if you're not with us, get out of our way. Get out of our way. And so that was the Libertarian Convention as we saw it. It was very interesting, probably one of the most eyes on that convention ever. And not because RFK Jr. spoke there, maybe a little bit, but not really, because Trump spoke there, which is the icing on the cake. It is. It is the icing on the cake. After a quick break, guys, we're going to get to some comments. Make sure you guys are commenting. Let me know what you guys think about what we're talking about. I do see my internet connection might be a little poor. If I'm freezing up or anything like that, do not go anywhere. We will be right back, everybody. Take a look and listen to this message from my sponsor. Of course, that's Freedom 2.0. The not gay water. No fluoride in this water, so it's not going to make you gay. It's pretty awesome. We got Freedom 2.0 here. Everybody go check out Freedom 2.0 on their website. Use code USA at checkout. It's code breakaway at checkout. I always mix that up. Tune in on Mondays and Monday through Friday, pretty much, guys, on Breakaway USA or even my channel. And we'll have a better explanation. But go freedom20.com/USA. Drink this water or move to Canada. That's the challenge I have for all you guys. Drink this water or move to Canada. We're gonna. I do want to check out Sup Nerds. We got that from Demon Goral. Thanks for joining, everybody. If you are watching, leave a comment. Let me know what you're thinking, what's going on, how you're doing, all that fun stuff. Andrea watched Kennedy on Tim Pool, I believe is what she meant, not Tim Pooh. It was super hard to listen to. Feel bad for his voice. Oh, well, I do feel bad for his voice. That's one thing, and I've talked about it on this show before, is that unfortunately, Kennedy seems to have some level of a speech. But I don't really know what's wrong with it. Maybe it has something to do with that worm that was eating his brain. I don't know, but But it's crazy. I mean, it's just not a very good speaker. I applaud Trump for doing that. Absolutely. Absolutely. And Jorgensen was an absolute disaster. We are supposed to be having Josh Bender join soon, but maybe not quite yet, which means that I will get set up. I was expecting to be ready for that segment, but it's all good. We can play a little bit. Kennedy has a disease, so does his sister. Interesting. It makes you wonder how far removed of family their parents could have been. I don't know. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that they're in some way maybe related? I don't know. I don't know. I hope that my screen and everything is doing just fine. I am. Give me one moment, everybody, because I want to make sure that my Wi-Fi and everything is good. Let's hope Josh gets in here soon. Maybe we just call him. Do you think? In the comments, let me know if I should just call Josh live on air to get him on, because he was supposed to come at 5:30 Central Standard Time. But I do have another story I'll start getting queued up here to make sure that we can keep going, because I don't know if you guys heard, but Robert De Niro did quite a fascinating thing for Joe Biden. It's really sad to see the fall of Robert De Niro. But let me get all that pulled up here real quick so that we can get to that story. This is what happens when I do not have a producer or anything. I just fly by the seat of my pants sometimes. I keep freezing up. Oh, well, that's wonderful. Great to know. Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Is my audio okay? Please let me know if my audio is at least okay. I hope that is there. Because I'm trying my best. There we go. I tried to call Josh too, and that wasn't working. Audio is great. Well, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. Give me one moment. I am going to refresh my browser. Hopefully that will help with the connection. So sorry for the interruption, everybody. Thank you for everybody who stuck with me. I really do appreciate it. I hope that maybe my connection is a little bit better. And just keep me updated in the comments. Hopefully this doesn't get messed up or anything. I know this is what happens when I don't necessarily have great connection. I'm sorry, guys, but I am doing my best here. Please make sure that if you want to support the show, make it so that I can have some better connection and upgrade, be better. Support the show, Venmo or Cash App. I'd appreciate it. Or you could super chat, anything like that. That would be so appreciated. Please consider supporting the show in some way. I know it might seem like I'm a little unorganized tonight. Sorry, not everything always goes to plan, but I do appreciate everybody who is sticking with me, watching, and paying attention. So let's get on to this next story here. This is Robert De Niro. I don't know if you guys heard, but Robert De Niro has been doing quite interesting things with the Joe Biden campaign. If anybody suffers from Trump derangement syndrome, it would be Robert De Niro. So let's get into this right here. So out of Fox News, anti-Trump actor Robert De Niro lent his staunch support to the Biden-Harris campaign this week, narrating a new ad that painted Trump as an unstable dictator who will do anything to grab power. Oh, of course, this is just what the leftist narrative needs. De Niro, who has gained notoriety through the Trump years by trashing the former president on many occasions, provided a voiceover for the new ad, which trotted out some questionable or debunked narratives about Trump. About Trump. Sorry, Josh just texted me, everybody. About Trump that the Democratic Party media outlets have pushed. So let's take a look and listen to this new ad that has been pushed through about Donald Trump through Democratic sources right here. Take a look and listen to this.
From midnight tweets to drinking bleach to tear gassing citizens and staging a photo op, we knew Trump was out of control when he was president. Then he lost the 2020 election and snapped, desperately trying to hold on to power. Now he's running again, this time threatening to be a dictator, to terminate the Constitution.
If I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath.
Trump wants revenge, and he'll stop at nothing to get it.
I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
From midnight tweet.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So let's go through all of this one more time. So you guys got to see it in its full glory off the bat. Now, let's go through this and debunk it together because there's a lot to talk about here. There is a lot. So we'll start off with this.
Tweets to drinking bleach.
So the midnight tweets, I'll admit, Donald Trump did tweet during his presidency at midnight. But the drinking bleach, this is a hoax that's been constantly debunked. During the pandemic, Donald Trump said, as president, quote, "I see the disinfectant that knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? As you see, it gets in the lungs. It does a tremendous number on the lungs. So it would be interesting to check on that." That is the exact quote. Not once did Donald Trump say bleach or to drink it. What he said was maybe there's a way to disinfect the body by injecting something. Bleach was never even mentioned. So once again, lies, lies, lies that the Democrats do.
To tear gassing citizens and staging a photo op.
So that's another lie that the Democratic Party has consistently pushed. If you consider that one, tear gassing citizens for a photo op, the photo op narrative has been debunked a year. It was actually debunked definitively a year after Trump's infamous walk over to vandalized St. John's Church, with an Interior Department Inspector General investigation finding that it was necessary to remove the BLM protesters from Lafayette Park on June 1st, 2020, in order to install anti-scale fencing to prevent White House grounds from being overrun. The report found that Trump had coincidentally walked out into the cleared space hours after the plan to clear it had been decided on. So Trump didn't make any of that. He didn't tear gas them. He wasn't out there with tear gas throwing them at citizens, laughing his head off. I might have been. I'm joking. For legal reasons, that's a joke. They're going to cut that up and take it out of context now. But no, that's what they were doing. All the hooligans that were out there, it had nothing to do. Trump didn't order it. It was other people, and it just made him look bad. But it's been debunked. It's a lie.
We knew Trump was out of control when he was president. Then he lost the 2020 election.
I'm not allowed to say why I believe that. Might be a little bit of an out of context thing to say, but okay.
And snapped, desperately trying to hold on to power. Now he's running again, this time threatening to be a dictator, to terminate the Constitution.
If I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath.
So it says terminate the Constitution. There has never been a single time in which Trump has said he wants to terminate and end the Constitution. I can say that definitively. I know that there's never been a time in which Trump has said he wants to end the Constitution. Along with that, there's the dictator narrative. Oh my gosh. Trump said that he would be a dictator, quote unquote, on day one, which, as I've discussed on this show, is essentially what every president does. And Donald Trump says it in terms of saying that he's going to, Joe Biden comes in on day one and does most executive orders that I know of any president, at least in my lifetime, if not in American history. Donald Trump says he's going to be, quote unquote, a dictator on day one. And the left says he's going to be a dictator. No, what he means is he's going to come into office and pass a bunch of executive orders to get to begin his agenda, which is what every single president does on day one. So by that narrative, by that logic, every president is a dictator on day one. Sorry, America, Hitler's currently in office. You don't need to elect Donald Trump to have literally Hitler in office. Obama, the first black Hitler. That's the way I'd see it. My God, that's essentially what they're saying. And then Like I mentioned, Robert De Niro claims that he wants to terminate that Trump wants to terminate the Constitution. And where that comes from, I have no idea. I've never heard anything that references that even a little bit. And then they play the bloodbath clip, which is once again another hoax. And I've also debunked that one on this show. After Trump made the claims that it's going to be a bloodbath, it's going to be a bloodbath. They said that in March. Outlets like the Rolling Stone, NBC News, CBS News, basically all your liberal lefty propaganda, shared headlines about how Trump was claiming that there would be a bloodbath if he didn't win re-election. That didn't mention that he was referring to the automotive industry, and he was talking about how we were going to have a bloodbath if he didn't get elected because Joe Biden didn't care about the automotive industry. I don't remember the exact story. I have a video on it. You guys can go look it up. But if you can go find my video on it. I don't remember everything. I'm sorry. My mental capacity is only as good as a human's can be. But then you even further that with even a Trump campaign spokesperson contradicted the framing and told NBC News Biden's policies will create an economic bloodbath for the auto industry and auto workers. That's what he's trying to say. That's what Trump was trying to say the whole time. And if you watch the full clip of where he says that in full, that's exactly what he mentions. Let's finish off this clip one more time, and then I'll wrap this up. But take a look and a listen to the rest of it. Sorry, I have all these tabs open. Here we go.
Trump wants revenge, and he'll stop at nothing to get it.
I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
Okay. So that's the Robert De Niro ad for Joe Biden. And then Joe Biden comes in at the end. And even I'll say the revenge. Yeah, Trump does want revenge, but like who wouldn't when you have like 80, 90 indictments and they're all from a weaponized DOJ and they're all like legally hollow. Yeah, who wouldn't want a little bit of revenge on that? Along with all the other things, the media incessantly tarnishing his reputation through lies and half-truths. Yeah, I'd want revenge too. But here's the thing with all of this is I'm not surprised. De Niro has needed the antidote to TDS for years now. He continues to take out his life frustrations by attacking Trump. I even read a rumor. And again, it's just a rumor. I'm not saying this is absolutely true. I don't know. I wasn't there. But I read a rumor that at one point, De Niro's wife said that a young Trump was a handsome man. And I'm pretty convinced that De Niro has just been mad ever since then. But Biden and his campaign have made it clear that with the help of the mainstream media, the lamestream media, they will happily lie to the American people. The saddest thing to me is that there are valid criticisms of Trump. There are. His handling of the COVID-19 pandemic, the CARES Act, which injected money all through our economy in an unprecedented way, a way that even Joe Biden hasn't done. He banned bump stocks and more. But instead of doing that, instead of trying to say, hey, Trump has critiques, Trump has issues, his opposition just blatantly lies. And it confirms the constant thing I always say, that Democrats, liberals, and leftists are lazy. They're lazy because it's easier to just lie and make shit up than it is to tell the truth about an honest critique. They can't even put in the work as opposition, and yet they want for you to vote for them to work for you. It's not going to happen. I will say this does make me sad because I did used to like De Niro, Robert De Niro. Well, not even necessarily. I've always liked De Niro in older movies. I will say I did always like him in older movies. And I do think that they probably got him to voice this ad, not because he was a memorable person or anything. It's probably just because Joe Biden couldn't actually get all the words out. That's why they just had the stock audio of I'm Joe Biden and I approve this message at the end. Which probably took like 10 takes anyways to get him to say. But I did always like De Niro in older movies, and that's why I did want to bring up this story real quick about how AMC slapped Goodfellas. So you know De Niro, like I just showed you, the traditionally liberal guy. AMC theaters, of which I own stock in because because it's going to go to the moon. And I follow Roaring Kitty. But AMC slaps Goodfellas with a trigger warning for offensive content that includes cultural stereotypes. This is a real thing. AMC Networks had added a trigger warning to the classic mob movie Goodfellas, which is a phenomenal movie, rankling those who were in the film and wise guys alike. In it, they quote it right here, but we can also look at it right. This film includes language and or cultural stereotypes that are inconsistent with today's standards of inclusion and tolerance and may offend some viewers. This is like a real thing. So now apparently you could be racist to Italians again. I guess that's what they're trying to say, is that you can now be racist to Italians. The warning was first affixed to the movie during the height of Black Lives Matter riots. Oh, I didn't even know this. When many businesses and cultural institutions made avoiding offenses to various groups a core part of their mission. Disney has made a cottage industry of affixing warnings. And then you have, but the warning for Goodfellas apparently doesn't apply to other mob flicks like The Godfather, which also plays on AMC, which I should do a whole video about the making of The Godfather and how Italians approved of it, how they lobbied Italians and even mobsters at the time back in the 70s when it was made, about all that they did, all the work they did for that. It's absolutely fascinating, but that I digress. But then you have, my God, these stupid ads are coming everywhere. It is presented with a more standard viewer discretion warning covering the effing political correctness has effing taken everything away. Bo Diddle, former New York cop who played a police officer in Goodfellas, told the Post, "This is how life was back then. It was not a clean and beautiful thing. You can't cleanse history. If you want to tell true history, you got to tell it the way it is." Michael Franzesi, a one-time captain of the Colombo crime family, said he was amused by the note. "We don't need anyone to protecting mob guys. It's crazy." The 1990 Martin Scorsese film is widely considered one of the best mob flicks ever. It absolutely is. And earned Joe Pesci an Academy Award for his memorable performance as the psychotic gangster Tommy DeVito. In 2000, the United States Library of Congress declared the film culturally significant and added it for the preservation in the National Film Registry. So this is literally what's happening. Is we have things that are considered historical, was added to the Library of Congress as culturally significant. And then the left comes out and they add to the beginning of it a sensitivity, a cultural sensitivity warning. It's culturally significant while also being culturally insensitive. They are actually trying to rewrite history. That's real, like absolutely happening right here. It was in 2000. It was culturally significant. Now it's culturally insensitive. That's what the left is trying to do. And then they'll claim that conservatives want to ban the books and keep you in the dark. This is just a small step that they'll even do to a liberal's movie like Robert De Niro to keep us dumber. That's exactly what's happening. And when we talk about things that are history related, there's only one person that can truly encapsulate all about history that really needs to be discussed. And that person is, of course, the individual that was also late this evening, as you all know, because I made fun of him for it on this show. Josh Bender, how's it going, Josh?
I'm good, man. I'm sorry I was late. Every tech thing that wanted to go wrong went wrong, and yeah.
No, I get it. You just like forgot.
No, I was trying to set it up, and yeah, everything hated me today.
Well, hopefully it's not everything, because we'll see in the comments what people think about some of the things that we have to say today. But before we get to our next topic, which is going to be, so the reason why I wanted to bring Josh on, everybody, is not necessarily, we will actually, what are your reactions to those last stories that I just covered, Robert De Niro and all that crap?
I mean, Robert De Niro is Robert De Niro. I don't care about celebrities and their opinions. The Goodfellas thing is funny because I think, as I messaged you, I'm Italian. We make fun of ourselves. We don't care. We're not offended by anyone. We laugh along. We love the stereotypes. I love going to the mob museum and seeing all the Italians and going, yeah, that's my culture. Like, I love it. So it's so stupid that they're like, it's insensitive. No, it's not. Shut up.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, I mean, like, I've loved mob movies. There might be a little Italian in me somewhere. I'm mainly Irish, but I just have always loved mob movies. But the main thing I wanted to ask you about when it comes to that, though, is, so it's one thing for a celebrity, an irrelevant celebrity, to state an irrelevant political opinion, but the Joe Biden campaign like brought on Robert De Niro to voice this ad, which is a little bit different to me, because it's not just him voicing his opinion, period. It's him actually being, I'd assume, paid by the Joe Biden campaign to make this ad. Their thoughts on that, on that whole idea?
I mean, it shows how much he's flailing that he needs to go to once great actors to, I mean, I think he has to go to the old generation, the same that Joe Biden is 4 generations behind. He has to go to old actors, old great actors, and say, hey, why do you want to come join this? You want to, do this? Want to be a part of my campaign? Because he can't get any relevancy. He's trying to connect to the kids, yet what kid is going, oh, I love Robert De Niro? Like, genuinely, it's not happening often. It's a strange move, but he's an iconic guy. I guess that's why they do it.
No, I could totally see that. I want everybody to know that the main reason I brought Josh on today is that we could discuss a little bit more, because as many know, and I don't know if we've really talked about it on the show, because we haven't had you on consistently in quite a while, because you're a teacher that has to, like, I don't know, help kids like be literate or something. Whatever teachers do nowadays. I don't know. Are you grooming students? Are you making them gay?
No. I'm making them love America.
Oh, well, then you're in the minority.
Yeah.
On that one, you're basically the black guy of teaching. If you were a black guy in Vermont, that'd basically be the same thing that you are to teachers.
Yeah, I think so.
But I gotta take a quick ad break. But I brought Josh on to talk about vice presidential picks, because at one point, Josh was as close to a never Trumper as one can be without being a never Trumper. So, but real quick, I do want to give a shout out to Freedom 2O. So take a look and listen to this.
Blah, 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 blah. What are you talking about? Here, have some Freedom 2O. Now, the Constitution is awesome. That's what it is.
Freedom 2O is a little cheesy. Like, I'll admit, it is. But what they are doing is they're connecting content creators, even small ones like me that are relatively insignificant, into a larger group of people, and bringing people in so that they can sell some not gay water to some not gay people. So I don't know, maybe you're gay and you like Freedom 2O. That's fine too. But it doesn't have fluoride in it, so you're not going to become more gay from drinking it.
Just like the frogs.
Exactly. That's what we always. That's like the thing that we always say about it is, it doesn't makes the frogs gay. Fluoride makes frogs gay, but no, fluoride makes the freaking frogs gay. But we're not making the frogs gay. I'm a little bit retarded, but anyways.
Your face got real red there.
You racist shit. That's just because I'm Irish. No, but I wanted to talk to Josh a little bit more about the vice presidential picks for Donald J. Trump. I want to talk first, before we even get to those. Josh, you were a former DeSantis supporter, still are a DeSantis supporter, but like in terms of 2024, obviously DeSantis is no longer in. The presumptive nominee for president for the Republican Party is Donald J. Trump. You seem to go through a grief cycle throughout when DeSantis decided that he was no longer running to now, where you seem at least somewhat supportive of Trump. Walk me through that.
So, I mean, I still don't think he's a good choice. I don't think he's the best choice, but I think he's the choice we have, and he's a better choice than Biden. And that's really what it comes down to. I mean, I think there was a lot of I had a lot behind DeSantis. I still do. I still support the guy. I still sport my shirt every so often just because, well, I have it. Might as well.
Is that what you're wearing right now?
No, I'm wearing a Let's Go Brandon.
Oh, okay.
Much better. I mean, I still don't necessarily like the guy. I don't think he's, like I said, the best choice for the job. He is the choice we have. I do think, and I'm just looking at my bills, looking at cost of living. As you said, I'm a teacher. The joke is we get paid $10 every 4 years. I mean, and so when you're living off $10 every 4 years, you need to make it count. And it's getting so expensive. I mean, I went and grabbed a couple things from the store today. It was over $100. It's ridiculous. And so I do know he had a good economy. I know he had another thing is backing Israel. He backs Israel better than Biden for damn sure.
Why is it important? Why is it important to you?
Israel?
Why is it important to you? So you said you brought up two things when it comes to Trump over Biden. Your first one was cost, which I think 99% of Americans, that would be one of the first things that comes up on their mind is the economy, period. But then the second thing you bring up, it's just interesting to me that that's the second thing you bring up is Israel versus Palestine. Why is that important to you?
I just think bowing down to terrorists the way that Biden's doing, bowing down to Hamas and kind of throwing an ally of ours to the wolves.
How is Biden? No, I'm not going to say that Biden has. I just want to ask, how has Biden bowed down to terrorists?
I mean, I think when he's telling Israel, don't go into Rafah and finish off the coward savages that brutalized thousands of people, don't finish them off.
I don't necessarily think you're wrong there. I think like as I see things like what Rashida Tlaib just went viral like today because she had a whole speech that she gave to a pro-Palestine organization, and that is like overtly pro-terrorism. Like at that point to me, like you're not even like deport Rashida Tlaib is where I'm at with it. But
yeah, I mean he's playing this middle game where he's trying to like appease these Dearborn, Michigan voters who aren't going to vote for him anyway. I mean they already don't like him. It's just ridiculous throwing an ally of ours to the wolves.
Absolutely. Okay, so those are your first two. So I want you to again walk me through it though. So you have economy, Israel. What else is it that's started to sell you a little bit more on Trump?
I think just in general, immigration, big one. I mean, we all know there's a border crisis. There's a disaster going on at the border, and Biden just keeps saying, well, if you pass this law and give me more money, I'll do it. No, you have the authority to do it right now. You're just not doing it. Where Trump says, I kind of jumped in, we were talking about a dictator on day one. Day one, he's going to shut that border down. And he's going to say, nope, we're going to fix this problem. Then we can reopen it. He's willing to actually handle that issue. And he doesn't care what people call him. He's going to do it. And I mean, that's one thing I've always respected about the guy. He's always been willing just to do it.
Absolutely. I want to know, okay, so you supported DeSantis. Now you're more on to Trump. What exactly is what now we look at how Trump could win in 2024. That was one thing that you kind of said is that you don't think that Trump necessarily, and I know you've said it privately. I don't remember if you said it on the show already, but you discussed the idea that Trump doesn't have as much of a chance to win. Why do you think that is?
So I think that was early on when he had a lot going against him. I think the 94 indictments, as stupid as they were, did look bad. I thought there was a chance that it could hinder him. Independents, I thought, were willing to just kind of sit it out, or maybe just go, oh, I hate that guy so much. I hate the way he talks. I'm gonna go for Biden. I now don't see that. I now think they are starting to go, man, but my pocketbook. I mean, it's big than my pocketbook. It was much nicer under Trump. I'm willing to go with that.
What about even the fact that he goes and speaks to the Libertarian Convention? I don't know how much of that, but that's what I started the show with. Was all about.
Yeah, I mean, I saw he got booed a little bit. I saw, but I think the fact that he's willing to go into not necessarily a bastion of support, but still say, listen, I know you might not support me overall, but there's a couple things we can agree upon. Let's join the best we can here. I do think I give him credit for that. I think, I think, I listen to Ben Shapiro a lot, but the way I agree with him. He says he's running a much more clean cut and much more focused campaign this time around. That actually, I think, will be his savior. Because if he goes out and starts doing what he did in 2016 and 2020, he's not going to win. But if he just says, no, I'm going to just focus on the issues, I'm going to let Biden make himself look bad, he's going to win. I think that's what he needs to do is just, he needs to run the basement campaign all of a sudden and just be like, I'm just doing my thing.
Yeah, well, and that's like the thing that I've been kind of thinking about Trump too is like I don't think that he's not running by any means, and he'll still say it every once in a while, almost in a sense of a Freudian slip, but he's even backed off from ever saying that he's a conservative by any means. Like he really has kind of approached this moderate idea. And not even just moderate, and this is what I think the libertarian attending that did so much for him, which is what I just talked about in the show, is that he'll come out to the libertarians and he doesn't come out and beg for their support. He doesn't pander to them by saying just everything, like he's promising them and everything under the sun, but he does come out and say, look, I heard you guys have been talking about this dark web guy for Ross Ulbricht, and I'll pardon him. He seems like from everything I've seen, his sentence seems to be not pardon. He wants to commute the sentence, which is a difference. But I'm going to commute the sentence because I think that he was given, it was unfair. And then he even says, he's like, I'm against the uniparty. So yeah, let's get some libertarians into places of power and appoint some libertarians some places. Like, for any libertarian to boo him, you don't have to support him, but I think it's idiotic to boo him because this is the first time that a major party candidate has actually given libertarians any time of day.
Yeah. I mean, I give him massive credit for that. And yeah, I mean, I think that, and I agree. He's not running as I'm this super conservative. He's running as I'm a Republican. Yeah, I identify as Republican, but there's some issues that I'm up in the air about. It's like, okay. I mean, he's running a smarter campaign overall.
No, smarter, maybe. Yes, I think he's a more reined in campaign.
More reined in, more controlled, I would say.
Yes. And in some way more focused as well.
It's funny. Well, I say one thing too, because I think Shapiro makes a great point, which he says he's off Twitter. All his ranting and ravings on truth, where no one is, and I think that's actually a very smart point. Yeah,
that's true. And then even along with that, there are usually people that post his truths to Twitter, but the only people that see that are the people that like want to, because it's not like a Trump account. It's not like
exactly.
It's not like this is Donald Trump's account. This is directly the words from his mouth. It's like somebody who's just like, I'm just going to repost, or it's like a bot that posts all of it. And so
exactly.
You're absolutely right on that. But even on his truths, it's not that big of a deal. But this is what you sent me. I want everybody to know that I did not willfully retain NBC News as a source, but Josh did. If that says anything about,
I use Decision 2024. Their layout is really good for education. Like their map and everything is really well laid out, and I love that their infographics like this. So I use them as a great source for classrooms.
Gotcha. Well, the thing is that everybody's been talking about Trump's vice president pick, and I actually have not looked through almost any of this source so far. So we're going to scroll through it. We're going to talk a little bit about different VP potential picks, talk about our individual thoughts about them. Let us know in the comments, what do you guys think about each of these picks? And if any of the ones that I was thinking about are not on this list, I am going to bring them up to see what Josh thinks. But before we get to any of this, I want to know, Josh, if the election were held today and you in some way got to choose who Trump's VP pick would be, who would it be and why?
So I think his smart choice, and I know we've had some disagreements on this. I genuinely think a smart choice would be Nikki Haley.
Oh, you're
as a because in this
Joshua.
I see it. Here's why. I see it as a unity ticket, similar to Reagan Bush. It's a unity ticket. They are coming together and saying we're getting all bastions of the party in. We're getting those independents in. I think she'd be a decent selling point.
She is the uniparty, though. She is representative of the uniparty.
Kev, I think Trump's the uniparty as well. We've talked about this in depth. I still don't think
you can think that, but it would be so it would be if he came out and said Nikki Haley would be my VP, and he says that after going to the Libertarian Convention. Like what? The Libertarians boo the man who is the only president in our in the last 100 years that hasn't started or continued a war. And then he would hire the biggest war hawk on the face of the planet as the VP. He'd look like such a hypocritical asshole. I think
he is a hypocrite, but
okay.
That's not. That's
finish your thought. Finish your reasoning. Finish your reasoning for why you think.
It's simply because I think there is a good portion of the party that isn't going to vote for him, and I think if there is a chance that she's in the room helping make decisions, they're more willing to go for the guy. Do I think she's a good choice? No. Do I think she's a good politician? No. I don't think she's a good politician at all. I think she sucks. But there is a portion of the party he does need to win support over, and I think they might budge, but it's going to take longer.
But based on all current polling, there's not really anybody he needs to win support from.
Suburban moms is a big one still.
Once again, no. When I say based on all current polling, he is winning pretty much every single verifiable poll, or at least enough to dominate in 2024 within the margin of error as well.
Most, I think a couple he's dead heat in a couple of the swing states. I think Michigan.
Yeah, but overall he gets 270 in the majority of poll. Vast majority.
Yeah, I know he's winning. He's winning here in Nevada by like 7 points, which is massive.
So at that point, why would he need Nikki Haley to win over?
I mean, again, it was a thought I had.
So that's but that's what you think is the best. I also want to, because I want to get to the actual like topic within this article too. But what would your like ideal pick? You're going in to vote and you're like, this is the person I would love, because you weren't a Trump fan. Who would be your ideal pick? Doesn't even have to be anybody that's on this list.
Yeah. I mean, I think my ideal, of course, would be Ron DeSantis, getting him in there, because then he is the kind of heir to the throne. I hate to say that in that way, but he's then proven himself in a new capacity. He's proven that he can do it. When Trump has to step down in 4 years, because obviously he's term limited, there's the natural progression. Again, Reagan, Bush, went from Ronald Reagan to George Bush very quickly. I think that's just the natural progression of it.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that one. I think that's a better option. But the Nikki Haley one is just, to me.
It was one I thought about.
Who could be Trump's vice president? Donald Trump needs to choose a 2024 running mate. Here are key contenders vying for the spot on the ticket. I could read through all this, but it's not important enough to me. So we'll go through these. Doug Burgum is the first one. That's the guy that I would always say, who the hell is this guy? He's when he was on stage on the debates, I ended up actually kind of liking him. Josh, your thoughts?
I like Doug. I think he's a nice guy. He seems like a pretty driven dude. I think his biggest downfall is no one knows him, and I truly think that. I think he'd be great on the cabinet. I think he's a good Department of Agriculture would be fantastic for him, because he is a farmer. He's on farmer estate. I think he knows a lot. Or I don't think he was a farmer, but he lives in a farmer state, and I think he knows farmers well.
Yeah, I could see that. The argument for that's listed here is that he's independently wealthy, so he could pay off a lot of legal fees. Argument against is basically what you said, is that he doesn't really have nobody really knows who he is. And I really think the argument both for and against this man is that I think he does a lot of what Mike Pence did for Trump in 2016. Is he was relatively unknown, from a place where he was already kind of gonna win, but like could just kind of help him out in a few different areas, make him look a little bit more clean cut. Because like that's what Trump got Pence to really prove to evangelicals that he was worth it. Trump doesn't need to prove much to evangelicals anymore. They're kind of on his side no matter what he does anymore. So it's just interesting to me. I feel like that's what Doug Burgum kind of is just like a Mike Pence 2.0 to some extent. Then we got Tulsi Gabbard. This is an interesting one to me. I know you simp for her because you think she's hot.
She is hot. It's true.
Destiny, we'll talk about that later.
I got to meet her. She was very sweet.
You met Tulsi? Okay, tell me about that experience. Then
yeah,
tell me what you think about her as a VP pick.
So, I mean, her and Laxalt, when Adam Laxalt was running for Senate last year, 2 years ago, she spoke before, and really great speaker. She's really fun to talk or to listen to. I think of Democrats, she's obviously an independent. I don't hate her. I don't. I mean, I think some of her politics, I go, maybe not. Like I know one thing she was universal basic income. I didn't like that. But I think she's come around on a lot of issues as well, and starting to maybe. I think that's why she left the Democrat Party, because she realized that some of these issues that she once held near and dear, she doesn't necessarily believe anymore, and I think that's a good thing.
Pretty anti-Second Amendment as well.
I think even then she's come around to that.
Well, I think the thing that's interesting though is the reason why I come back and forth on, well, not I don't really go back and forth on it. The reason why I'm currently against Tulsi Gabbard is because while she's left the Democrat Party and while she has started speaking at and for certain conservative movements and such and different politicians, blah, 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 I really don't know where she actually stands on things.
And that's my big issue.
The stances that I have confirmed are the ones from her 2020 platform, which is when she was running as a Democrat, albeit a moderate Democrat, but she was running as a Democrat. And so the way I see it is she's a climate change guru. She loves to hate the Second Amendment. She's pretty laissez-faire when it comes to abortion, like the way an LGBTQ crap, like, so the way I see it is all I have that's verified for her is her Democrat 2020 platform. So I don't trust her. I still don't trust her, and I think there's better options. That's the way I see it. But let's get on to that. So the argument for here, former Democrat Gabbard could be an effective messenger for disenchanted Democrats. I don't necessarily disagree with that. And then but years down the line, Democrat voting against Trump in Congress. Yeah, it's pretty normal. And then we got Vivek Ramaswamy, businessman. Okay, this is an interesting one. I think we'll have interesting viewpoints on this, potentially even differing. What are your thoughts on Vivek Ramaswamy?
So I still don't trust Vivek. I still think he's a bit of a snake oil salesman. I still think he has to prove himself, similar to Tulsi. He has to prove himself a lot. He says the right things, but he doesn't have a lot of backing behind it. I think that is a negative that's going to hurt him a lot. That being said, I think he should be on the cabinet? I know he's been thrown around for Secretary of Homeland Security. Great position for him. I think it's a fantastic position for him, actually. I think because I think he could do really good with that or even like commerce. But I think Homeland Security would be fantastic for him. I think he still has to prove himself to a lot of those people who don't just look at what someone says, but look at what they do and go, he has some time. He still has some work.
Yeah, I think the main thing I'd want to, because I like Vivek and I liked a lot of the things he says. I like the way he speaks. I think my biggest thing for him is that he is not a Christian. And like when I say that, what I mean is that he will oftentimes, if you listen to a lot of his speeches, especially when he was running for president, he'll say things that sound like they're Christian-esque, not necessarily like flat out being like, oh my God, Christ is king or anything like that, but saying things that are like, we need to love thy neighbor. Like he'll make like little, like love thy neighbor as you love thyself. Like he'll say little things like that but he himself, I believe, is Islamic.
No, he's
Hindu. I'm sorry. I don't mean to insult him by calling him the worst religion that possibly exists, Islam. No, he's Hindu, which is like the only polytheistic religion that's still practiced,
I believe,
at a wide scale. And so Vivek is, but again, he'll pander-ish to Christians and never really reconcile the idea that, and I think there's been a few times where he's been asked about it and he kind of dodges the question. And I think that's something I don't like, is like, I believe in Judeo-Christian values. I believe that Judeo-Christianity is really what founded this country, especially Christianity. And while I don't necessarily believe in the idea of having a theocracy necessarily, I don't love that. Do I think it would solve a lot of problems? Sure. But that can be an argument for a different day. I don't necessarily believe in a theocracy, but I do want to know why you stand in a certain place and why a party that is usually very big on Judeo-Christianity should vote for a Hindu, or maybe even just educate people on what Hinduism actually is.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people don't actually know what it necessarily. I've done research into it. I know to a certain extent about the religion, but not everybody does.
I teach it a little bit, so I know the basics of it.
So yeah, so that would honestly be my reason against, is because I feel like it would be really hard, and not even because I have an issue with him being Hindu, necessarily, but because I think that it doesn't play well with the Republican Party, and I think the VP needs to be somebody who can come in 4 years, run and win easily, as if they are the presidential incumbent. So the argument for is he's wealthy. Of course, everybody thinks that Trump needs a lot more money. A source familiar with Ramaswamy standing in vice presidential headhunt said in March that he's more likely to be under consideration for a cabinet position. So Josh cheated.
Yeah, well, one thing I saw, it said that Ramaswamy can bring in the youth vote. It was actually interesting because when you looked at his support in Iowa, he actually did not have a lot of youth support. Who had
interesting.
The most youth?
DeSantis did.
DeSantis did, and then it was Haley. It was DeSantis, Haley, then Trump, then Ramaswamy, I believe.
Yeah, well.
Which is interesting.
Any youth who supports Haley just is uninformed, in my opinion. But then we get to Marco Rubio, the senator from Florida. Thoughts on Marco Rubio?
I mean, I've never disliked Marco. I've never thought Marco Rubio is actually a bad guy. I thought he's been kind of fun. I think he hits that demographic because he's Cuban, obviously, and Cubans are largely conservative, and he does hit that demographic well. I mean, with being Cuban, I think one of his biggest downsides is going to be he's kind of quiet, and I remember him kind of being pounced on and stomped by Trump in 2016. And so I think that does cause some issues when looking at him. I don't necessarily think that makes him the best choice. But I don't dislike him. I also hate to play the politics game, but I do think he maybe needs a woman as a VP. I think Trump maybe needs a woman. You're muted.
Sorry, my cat started coming in here and meowing at me. But that's really something. Bandit, everybody, by the way. If he comes back here, I'll pick him up and I'll show him to the screen. But Marco, you really think that Trump needs a woman? That's really what
I think it would help him. I think it would help him massively. I hate to play the identity politics, but I think it would help him a bit.
You sexist shit.
I know. I think he needs a woman or a person of color. I think he needs one of the two. I hate to play the.
Isn't Marco Rubio? I mean, Marco Rubio is
Cuban, right? Yeah, so I mean, I think that helps, but
a person of color. We'll get to that argument, but I got to see who else is on this. Marco Rubio, he wouldn't be my choice, and it would be. I think Marco Rubio would be one where I'm just like, oh, that's who he chose. Like, and it's not necessarily think that I think Marco Rubio is quiet. It's just that he doesn't do enough to make enough waves. Like, not that I think he should be out here and be like really, really angry or anything like that, or like the next Trump, but he doesn't do like, he's just kind of there. Like, he's kind of like,
he's just there.
He's just like, he's just there. He's not a uniparty shill like Jeb Bush, but he gives off Jeb Bush vibes.
I can see that. Yeah,
that's how I kind of
see that.
Argument 4: he's been vetted, scrutinized for his own presidential campaign. Against, Rubio took flack from the right over his comprehensive immigration reform legislation. He could probably get stuff like that. Like, he's just not. Then we get to Tim Scott. I'm moving on from that one because that's boring. But Tim Scott, I think this is one we'll disagree on. What do you think about Tim Scott?
I think he has the same problem as Marco, is he's quiet and he didn't have a lot of support. I mean, he was really not well supported.
Okay, but he's a person of color. That's what you said that he needed.
Person of color. I think that helps. He's from the South, but I mean, that doesn't really help him that much. But I think he's a person of color, which does help to an extent. But I think his problem was he didn't have a ton of support, and I think he was too quiet. And I think even independents were kind of like, "Who is this guy?" Well, he's a great senator. I think he should just stick to being a senator. And I think he's getting married soon, so like focus on that, man.
Is he really? He's 60. Yeah, he's almost 60 years old.
He just got engaged, I believe.
Oh, interesting. I didn't even know that. Maybe I talked about it at one point. It's just hard to keep track. But I think that the biggest thing is like, honestly, I thought you were going to like him more as a candidate. I think Tim Scott is the black guy that even black people don't like. Like I really think that, and it might sound crude, but that's the way I see it. Is he is uber Christian, which I do like. Like I like him as a person. Josh, your camera.
Sorry.
But no, it's all good. But I like him as a person. It just gets like he comes off as like he always wants to be a preacher, and I'm sorry, but I don't want a preacher to be my vice president.
Yeah.
I want a Christian. In my opinion, I want a Christian as a vice president, but not necessarily my preacher, because my preacher will be the person that might be scared to say what they're supposed to say in a certain instance. But that's Tim Scott. Let us know what you guys think about Tim Scott in the comments. I'd be very interested, because I know that one. Their argument for, according to NBC, is he gained experience and broader recognition from his own presidential campaign. He could be a policy asset and also helping with Black and Hispanic men. The argument against is that his campaign fizzled and failed to inspire GOP voters. Absolutely. Then we have skeptics turned MAGA. I don't know if this is, there's a lot of people on here. Greg Abbott. Okay, we're going to speed run some of these, because I want to make sure we get to as many. I didn't realize how many people were on this.
There's a lot on here.
But we get to Greg Abbott. Thoughts about Greg Abbott, besides the fact that he's in a wheelchair?
I mean, he's a good governor. That's it. I think he's a great governor. I think he kind of does. The problem is, though, he sometimes is second or third to the stand. He usually tends to follow like DeSantis's stances when it comes to big national issues. That's my biggest critique of him.
Well, yeah, I could see that. I think the thing that I see with it is that he's from Texas.
Yeah.
He's from a state that Trump's already going to
Texas.
win. And it's not like getting the governor of Texas is going to do anything more for Trump. It's not going to happen. I don't see Greg Abbott. Then we get to Tucker Carlson. This is kind of a fun one. Thoughts?
I mean, I don't like Tucker that much. I think Tucker has lost the ball a little bit. I think I think when he went and shilled for Putin in Russia,
Shilled for Putin? How the hell did he shill for Putin?
Oh, when he let Putin go on a 45-minute rant about a very wrong, you're talking about history, wrong history of Russia, and then he went, oh, look at the prices here. That's what dictators do, is they set up one really good-looking train station and one really good store where they put all the tourists and reporters, and then the rest of the country shit. That's Russia right now, and he kind of just let Putin do that. I mean, I don't have a ton of respect for him. I think that made him look worse.
It's better letting Putin talk. The problem is we have the idiot Zelensky, the pornographer Zelensky, who comes over to America all the time and acts like he's this diplomat. I'd rather have a journalist, a real journalist, instead of just sucking off Zelensky and being like, oh my God, like, let's give you more money. Let's at least let Putin, even if it's a false history, let the man talk.
I just wish he would have actually been tough on him and actually asked him real questions, asked him about him murdering his opposition, asked him about why he felt it was right, instead of just letting him go on this rant about it was a bad interview. I watched the interview. It was bad.
But then Tucker, did you see that Tucker wanted to, and this isn't even about the VP stuff, because I don't think Tucker would be a great VP either. Tucker doesn't even want to be the VP. Actually. Yeah. It was asked at a convention that I saw Tucker speak at. He was asked if he would be the VP, and he said no. But so Tucker at one point asked Zelensky if Zelensky would be open to an interview, and then all of a sudden Tucker ended up on a kill list. A kill list in Ukraine, that if Tucker was found in Ukraine, that he would be basically assassinated. There was basically an assassin list.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Zelensky's a good guy either, but
that's my so you asked like he's shilling for Putin. I don't think he's shilling for Putin. I think
he did a little bit. I think
you want to know what I really think, because I love Tucker. I think Tucker and yeah, I'll agree that interview wasn't the best, but I don't think he was intentional. Like the way when you say he was shilling for Putin, the message that gives is that he was over there like, I'm gonna make Russia look so good, and I don't think that was his intention by any means. I think he went over there, and with the knowledge that he had with what happened, I don't think he knew and expected to go into a in-depth, like hundreds of year history of Russia. And so he didn't know how to press into something about the 1500s, because he thought that he was going to be going into an interview about the Russia-Ukraine conflict as it stems from like the last century-ish. And that kind of showed through the interview. Is like that's where he would push a little bit.
But then again, like when he went to the McDonald's and went to the grocery store and was like, "Oh, look how low these prices are." Like, okay, you're falling propaganda, man.
Maybe, but it's more than any other American journalist has done, and so
I mean, yeah, but I don't know. I'm not a big fan of him.
So, but anyways, I don't think he'll be the VP.
No.
And so it's honestly kind of a moot point. Then we get to Kristi Noem. Oh, this is kind of a fun one. Let's talk about
Dog killer.
Okay, what did you think about that? Because I had a lot that I said about that.
Why would you write that? Why would you intentionally put that in your book?
You know she didn't, right?
It's not in the book?
No. You know she didn't write that. Like pretty much every politician's autobiography or anything that they write when they're like trying to run for something bigger. None of them actually write that stuff. It's all for the most part, vast majority is ghostwriters.
Well, sure, it's ghostwriting, but why would you talk about it in any way so that it could be given to a ghostwriter and written? I don't understand why she had to talk about that story. And then when pressed about it, she goes, "Oh, well, I would shoot Biden's dog." What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, I would too. I mean, it was a bad dog. It was tax humans.
I understand that, but just it doesn't look good to kill puppies.
See, the thing was like the thing that made me mad about it is I was like, because I didn't think, I will agree with you that she should have, even with a ghostwriter, she should have like looked at that and been like, oh, like this is probably not the best look. But I don't even think when it comes, that dog had killed chickens that belonged to somebody else. It had also had shown an aggression towards humans. Like by all available metrics, that dog had cause to be put down.
Yeah.
I'm not mad about her putting down the dog. I'm mad that she didn't write her own book, or even do the work enough to be like, hey, this could maybe look bad.
And I also think too, like, yes, I understand what you're saying, and I look at it logically and go, yeah, it makes sense. But then to the normal American, they're just gonna go, oh my God, she killed a dog. What is wrong with her? They're not gonna think about the actual launch behind it. She also lied and said she met Kim Jong-un.
Yeah, that was. But again, I don't think she wrote that. Like, she didn't write that. I think
she did. I mean, and
you want to know is I think that her life was like just so uneventful to some extent. I haven't read the book, so I can't really say. This is just me making kind of a joke. Her life was so uneventful that even being the governor of South Dakota, her life was so uneventful that her ghostwriter was like, "Hey, I'm just gonna add some random shit in here because I think it'll be funny."
Yeah, I mean, and I think she openly admitted that she was a ghostwriter, but it's like, okay, that's fine. But yeah, she's just not a bright person. Yeah, thank you, Demon Goral. Yeah, she's just not a bright person. I don't think she's bad. I just think she's stupid.
No, and it makes me really sad because one of the first times I ever saw her speak, it was about 3 years ago, and she had a quote that she said at that conference, and I really liked her. And up until all these stories, I loved her, and I thought she was amazing because she was very conservative. Her policy showed that. And then she also really won over the white suburban mom vote.
Yeah.
Based on just characteristics alone, but also the way she spoke. I will never forget the quote that she said at the conference that I saw her back in like 2021, I think it was. She said, people will never care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yeah.
And I loved that quote. And yeah, maybe it was written by a ghostwriter or something, but she had said, people will never care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that really spoke with me because, as Josh knows, through college, I was never really the most sensitive individual. I would just kind of tell people what I thought, and if it hurt their feelings, I didn't really care because it was like, I don't really care about your feelings. But I liked that because I was like, I know a lot of politics, but I really do need to insult. Like I've thought about that quote a lot, and so it just makes me sad that.
And we've talked about this, and this is why we worked well together because I was very feelings, and you were very facts, and we worked together well. And
yeah, you're a pussy, and I'm not. I get it.
Sure, but I think you're right in that. Like that sounds good. I also know that there was a story. I don't know how true it was, but it did come out that she was maybe having an affair and things like that too.
Yeah, I heard about that.
That wasn't great.
There was a lot of there's a lot of drama around Kristi Noem. It's really sad. Because
I did like her.
Her image prior to all of that was great. Yeah, and so the argument for her, she brings executive experience as a governor. Proponent of South Dakota strict abortion restrictions. That's what they say the argument against is that she has strict abortion restrictions. Jeez.
Yeah, because Trump's
this is really what I think it is. She's been caught up in a series of bizarre negative stories of her own making.
Yeah.
That's really what I think is the biggest thing. All right, now we get to Elise Stefanik, House member from New York. What do you know? What do you think about Elise?
So I don't know much about her, but I remember because I did read through this.
Mm-hmm.
Of everyone on this list, I thought she seemed like the best choice out of all of them. I think she's young. She's in Congress, so she's at least has a little bit in Congress. Yeah, she was advisor to Paul Ryan, worked with Mitt Romney. I understand that. Like, I get that. But then she did become the party. It says a successful Trump-backed bid, so she is Trump-backed. I think she's young. She's a young woman. I believe she's a mom. She's new, but she's still proven herself to an extent, and I think that can be a pretty good thing. Because I think people are looking at Trump's age to an extent too. We need someone younger as a VP. I mean, it's the same as Biden. They're looking at his age.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, I got to be honest. I know that at one point she was floated as even being maybe the speaker.
Mm-hmm.
When there was all the like who is going to be it, because of all that stuff, which we don't need to get into that. But I really don't know that much about her, and I think that just speaks against her in the fact that I've heard her name. I've seen emails from the RNC that use her name in the subject line, and she's just relatively unknown. I don't think she gets New York. Donald Trump is originally from New York. If whatever part of New York she's from won't help Trump more than he already has.
Yeah. But I do think that'll help speak to the East Coast, and he could possibly pull off. I mean, like even that one in Vermont, or there are some maybe could pull one extra state, like Virginia. I think Virginia.
Now we get to my guy, my boy right here, JD Vance. I love JD Vance. JD Vance is amazing. I'll get into my whole thing about JD Vance, but Josh, what are your thoughts?
So I don't know much about JD Vance. From what I've seen, I've gone back because I think at first when I saw him, I was like, he seems a bit kind of that like I want Trump's backing. I'm gonna do anything. Now that I've actually seen him in action, otherwise I'm like, he's actually seems pretty reserved and pretty well spoken, well put together. I don't hate JD. I actually think he's okay.
See, he doesn't match your want or belief in in the minority or anything like that. But I really like him. He's a strong conservative, and also his background is absolutely fascinating. Anybody who has read or seen the movie or both of Hillbilly Elegy, it's based on his life, and he comes from a very, very not traditional. It's not traditional. That's not what I want to come up with. But a very unique and inspiring. I think that's really what I'd say. Upbringing in terms of the fact that he has lived to some extent the American dream. Now, not the American dream of like, oh, you immigrate to America and then you work your way up from the bottom. No, he's lived the American dream in the idea of like you can be somebody who he came from a family where his mom was a drug addict, didn't know his dad, had multiple men that would circulate through that his mom was dating, ended up going to live with his grandmother. His grandmother, who still was not that great of a person, at least instilled some level of value to him and said, work, came from poverty, destitute, worked his way up, ended up going to Yale Law School when it still actually meant something to go to Yale.
Yeah.
Got his law degree from there while also working to make sure that his mom could get through rehab. And then now is a United States senator.
Yeah,
wrote a book, got it published. Like this man has gone through so much, and if he can go through all that and get to where he is, I believe that he deserves and should be a thought leader for the American.
Well, and I think he has a similar background to DeSantis because it says law school. Then he's a Marine veteran as well. I think those two are in the same vein. Grew up, DeSantis grew up blue collar. Grew up sort of that, worked himself up to everything. I actually think those two could be a good ticket together in the future. I think they could be a great team together. So even if he doesn't choose him this time, I think he has a bright future, especially if DeSantis does go back in and start to do, and wins. I think will eventually win. I think him and JD Vance could be a great team together. I think they're fantastic.
No, I love JD Vance. Honestly, he is my pick. I don't think DeSantis Trump should work this time, and that might be something that comes up later in this, so I won't get into all that right now, but I just think that JD Vance would be a great pick for VP, and no matter what, JD Vance should be a Republican leader in the future. Let's get former Trump administration officials. I've talked about Ben Carson before. I don't necessarily dislike this pick. What are your thoughts on him, Josh?
I like Ben Carson. He's quiet. I think it's his only thing. He's quiet, but I do like him. I think he's a cool guy. I think Trump should bring him back in the administration if he wins, and to do something, because I think he did a good job.
Yeah. So I actually met Ben. He wrote a children's book that I've read. Actually, I don't know if I ever read it on when I had YouTube, but I know I read it on the radio when I was still doing it live from the studio, and I really do like Ben Carson. I think I think he'd probably be after JD Vance, like my second or third pick, because I really like him. I think he is a good person. I think he's incredibly intelligent. I think he's quiet to the point of which he lets, to some extent, like a black Mike Pence, for what Mike Pence was in 2016. He fits the identity politics mold to some extent, while also being a very educated man. He is older, which is kind of something that I don't love, but overall, Ben Carson, I think is somebody that could win some points for Trump.
Yeah.
So I like him. Don't dislike him. Mike Pompeo. Then we get to the former Secretary of State. Thoughts on Mike Pompeo?
I don't know much about Mike Pompeo, genuinely. I hear some things about him. I don't know really much about him. I don't know.
He's a really interesting person to listen to speak. I would never actually see him as a vice president. I don't even really know why he's on this list. It's interesting that he was included on this list. He was not one that I was expecting to come across. I just think he's an interesting. I think he is a longtime Politico.
Yeah.
But I just don't think he should even be on this list. Sarah Huckabee Sanders, interesting choice. Not one I was expecting to see on this list, but just not one I thought of. Thoughts on that, Josh?
I like Sarah Sanders. I think she's great. I think but she's a new governor. I think she needs to be down there in Arkansas fighting the good fight down there. That's it. I mean, I think that's where she should stay.
Yeah, I mean, I really liked her as the press secretary for the short time that she was there in that spot. I just think she doesn't win anything else besides potentially women. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. But potentially women. Then we get to up-and-comers. Katie Britt. What do you know about Katie Britt?
I know she gave a terrible response to the State of the Union.
Yeah, no, Katie Britt is terrible. I cannot stand her. She had some other videos that came out too. I didn't even talk about them on this show because it just like pissed me off too much. But she is just demographically and everything about her life seems like she is so set up to be like a rising star in the GOP, but she just does not present well at all.
Yeah, she could have been something great, but
Katie Britt looks like the type to only order a burger at a nice restaurant because it's hard to screw up a burger.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, can't disagree.
No, she is like, honestly, like she should be Karen Britt. Like, I feel like when people say Karen, which I don't love when people overuse the term Karen, but there are instances in which it is necessary. And I feel like she is somebody to where I could see Karen being utilized for her. Then we get to Byron Donalds. This would definitely be an interesting pick. What are your thoughts, Josh?
I think he's too like Trump, comes from Florida, doesn't bring anything to the table.
But you said we wanted a minority.
I said that'd be smart, but I think coming from Florida, Trump already has Florida.
But your pick was DeSantis.
Yes, he was my presidential pick. I said as a vice president, I think he's smart because then he's a president in incoming, he could take over.
Mm-hmm.
I just think, and I think Donald's is too similar to Trump in terms of, I mean, he is part of that little tight knit MAGA crew that the ones I call the Magadonians to make fun of. I think he's too he brings nothing of value to Trump.
See, I think I like Byron Donalds. I won't say I agree with you blanket statement because I don't. Because I do believe he would bring value. I just think that Byron Donalds should go further, but now is not his time.
Yeah.
Like, I think he could be a future, not necessarily a future Trump, but like an outspoken anti-establishment Republican in the future. I just don't think now is his time. I think that he does very good work in the House, in my opinion. I think that he is a very articulate individual that speaks well for a significant portion of the Republican Party in and outside of Florida. And I think he's good there. I don't think he should move yet. Then we get to Wesley Hunt, which I got to be honest, I've heard the name a few times. I don't know that much about. I wasn't expecting this one. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, same thing. I really didn't know who he was. I heard the name, the little bit I read about him. I mean, he seems cool. I mean, he seems like a cool guy. I mean, young, black, and a veteran, like it says right there. Key demographics. But he's from Texas. So, again, doesn't bring much coming from Texas.
That was the other thing I missed about J.D. Vance is he comes from the Midwest and Appalachia.
Yeah.
Which Midwest is like the battleground. Now, not necessarily Ohio a little bit, but like the reason why the RNC is in Detroit.
Milwaukee.
Sorry, Milwaukee. Messed up in my head. The RNC is in Milwaukee and the DNC is in Chicago. And that's literally, like, if you think about it, and this is a digression from the point of the long segment, but if you think about it, we have a massive country, a lot of places for you to hold your conventions. And the two major parties are having them within a few hundred miles of each other.
Yeah.
It's because they know Wisconsin, Michigan, and some parts of the surrounding states, I'd even argue maybe Minnesota, are battlegrounds.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why their conventions are in these areas. And so that's why I think that, like, J.D. Vance, again, being from Ohio, while not necessarily any of those battleground states, gets that kind of the Midwestern feel, because Trump by no means is Midwestern.
Yeah.
Wesley Hunt, I just don't think it's going to happen, so I don't even think it's worth a conversation. Then we get to Kari Lake. Now, this one actually could happen. I'll say, like, while I don't think it's going to, Kari Lake could happen. And I have thoughts. What are yours, Josh?
I don't like Kari Lake. I'm in a minority. I don't like her. I think she tries too hard to be what Trump wants her to be. I see her as phony. She ran for governor. Now she's running for Senate. And it's like, it seems like she's just going for something at this point. I think she looks good. I think she talks well. I just don't see her having a mind of her own at times.
Yeah, I've been at events with Kari Lake. I've been at events where she was not the keynote speaker. Like, so she was just an attendee similar to me. And I got to be honest, like I've talked about it on my on at least Breakaway USA shows before. I don't know if I've ever talked about it on my show. I'm just not the biggest fan of her. I've discussed her TikTok speeches. She's not, when she speaks in full, it's not usually very, very in depth. Like, she actually has deep knowledge. I think she plays the role of a politician very well. And that's why I think that she convinces a lot of people politically that she's a good pick. But she's just not mine. All right. Nancy Mace. Thoughts? Nancy Mace.
Another name I know, but I don't know what she does. Like I know I've heard the name Nancy Mace. I've heard that. I've heard some good things about her. I just don't really know much about her.
Really? Okay, so I've heard good and bad things about her. I've heard,
Yeah, I think I've heard both.
I have heard a lot more bad things, honestly, than good. There's occasionally where she'll vote the right way. I mean, she's a Republican in Congress. Yes, she votes the right way. That's what I hear good about her. When I hear bad, I've heard that she's made promises to donors, for her House run, that she would at some point be a part of the cabinet or a vice presidential pick, or even at some point prior to all the drama with Mike Johnson and Kevin McCarthy, and that she was even potentially a speaker pick. And so she had made promises behind closed doors, and so we don't know if they're actually true, but I think she's a Politico. I don't think she actually.
I also think, wasn't she the one that people came out and said like she is just terrible to work, like she's a terrible boss, she's just a horrible person to work with?
Maybe that, or it could have been.
I believe there was a story that came out where everyone's like, she is just miserable to work with.
Yeah, it could have been Ellen DeGeneres too. I don't know, but
I mean, you know.
But that's that one. MTG.
Oh, Jesus.
I can't believe I'm gonna put you full screen so everybody can get your reaction as you're as you are with MTG.
Well, Kev knows how I feel about MTG. I hate her guts. I think she is so stupid. I think she is one of those, again, Magadonians. When Kevin McCarthy's speakership was vacated and all that, I went on a whole rant to my class about how stupid it was and how messed up it was and how the Republicans are stupid and useless, and how, especially Matt Gaetz, I was so upset. I'm like, how this such a bad political decision to do.
Wait, you went on a rant to your class about this?
I talked about how much I thought politically it was a bad idea and how I thought this was really dumb to look for Republicans. Yes. I was explaining it in depth what it did and how I thought that Matt Gaetz made a dumb decision by saying, oh, I don't have a plan. I'm like, if you're going to do this, have a plan. And I think, and that's kind of what I was getting into, was have a plan. And it was very interesting how
Did any of your students argue against you?
No, they all agreed.
Oh, well, that's a problem.
They all agreed because I think it was stupid to do. When MTG or when Marjorie Taylor Greene decided to do it for Mike Johnson, it was a bad idea. It was a stupid idea. She's gaining nothing politically. I don't like her. I think that she is just, again, one of these MAGA shills that's just going to keep trying to appease Trump, and that is it. I do not like MTG in the slightest. You're muted.
Sorry about that. I don't necessarily dislike her. I just think that it's similar to Byron Donalds in terms of, like, I like where she's at in the House. I like what she does in the House for the most part. And I've talked against when I dislike some of the things, that she does. But overall, she votes the right way. And I did. I mean, the thing is, though, is that she also shifts with the wind. I mean, think about it. There was at one point, Josh, where you were mildly praising her because she advocated to keep Kevin McCarthy in the House.
Yeah, I did. I actually, I remember she did do that. And I said, you know what? I think a broken clock's right twice a day. And this is one of the times she's right. And she's saying something fairly decent. But then when she was like, well, I'll get rid of Mike Johnson for the exact same fucking reasons, I was so upset.
You can say it. This isn't going to go on.
That's true. I forgot to turn on the radio. No, I was just like, you're disingenuous.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if it's necessarily disingenuity, just disingenuity.
I think it's
I'll figure out the word later. I'm not perfect, everybody, just so you know. No matter how much my mom tells me I am, which is also a lie. No matter how much Josh's mom tells me I am. Gina, if you're watching, I love you. But no, I don't necessarily know if it's disingenuous. I just think that because I've briefly, like when I say I've met, like I have not sat in a room and had a long, in-depth policy discussion with MTG, but like I've shaken her hand and met with her briefly. I think she's overall not a terrible person. She's just not a VP pick. Once again, where Byron Donalds is, I think that they serve a role in the House to be in some way a check and balance on uniparty culture. And I do like that. While I don't always necessarily agree with all of her decisions, I like the purpose she serves.
Yeah, actually, and I do need to correct myself. I forgot she was not in favor of getting rid of McCarthy. So I do give her credit there.
Exactly. Well, interesting enough, none of these were Ron DeSantis. That was all the ones listed in this article that you shared with me. None of these were Ron DeSantis. But there was a lot.
Yeah.
There was a lot there. There was a lot there, and we are still waiting. We don't know who's going to be Donald Trump's vice president pick. My current vote is for JD Vance. I think JD Vance would be a great option. And if not him, then Ben Carson. But I really do think that JD Vance is getting prepped to be the vice presidential pick. If you had to put your money on it right now, I would say JD Vance. But what would you put your money on right now? Is who would be Donald Trump's vice presidential pick?
I would say JD is up there. I do actually still think Elise Stefanik is in the running. I think that I think similar to, Mike Pence wasn't super well known in 2016, and then all of a sudden he was VP. So Stefanik could be the same thing. Everyone knows who Donald Trump is, and if you're with him, you're gonna be well known pretty quick. So I think those would be the two I would be betting on, would be JD or Elise Stefanik.
Yeah, I could absolutely. I don't know as much. Elise Stefanik is one out of right field for me. This is not one that I was necessarily expecting. I know that I'm probably. Am I frozen right now, Josh?
A little bit.
Okay. Well, I'm back. Perfect. I know that my internet is not great, everybody. Josh, I am going to make sure that I get my video and everything working better. Go on a brief soliloquy about teaching in Nevada and what it's like to be a non-woke teacher while I exit real quick. Here's this.
Sure. Yeah. So I actually just did an interview on at least 2 podcasts. I helped write a book. There was a woman who was doing Conservative Voices Silenced, and there's a podcast. I did 2 interviews on there. I did one. It's called the non-woke classroom, if I remember correctly. I can get Kev the correct thing. So I talked about that in depth. It's fun because Nevada is a swing state by all intent and purposes. There is basically 2 counties, and that's Clark County and Washoe County, that are, Clark County's blue. The surrounding counties are all red. Washoe is kind of the swing. In fact, whoever wins Washoe County is going to win Nevada, is what they're saying. So I'm not in Clark County. I'm not in Las Vegas. That's good. I'm so happy about that. But not being there, it's fun. It's interesting. I think I come from a town that has such similar values and similar ideas, and a lot of the kids believe the same thing. And even my Democrat students, my left-leaning students, agree with the ideas of hard work, and they might have critiques of capitalism, but they believe in capitalism, things like that. So it's fun to be able to work with them. It's just the little conversation pieces that we get to have. I did have some students who were not very pro-Israel. I think that was interesting. We had interesting conversations. I had some who, believe in more, again, more government, help here and there. And we have interesting conversations as a class, but overall, I think they always come in good faith. And that's been a lot of fun. I think teaching government this year was an absolute pleasure. I'm excited to go back next year and teach it again. I love my job. What can I say?
Absolutely. And I got to be honest, I didn't hear most of that because I was resetting my browsers because my internet and everything is not always the best. And I usually freeze up around this point throughout the show, and I'm probably still freezing up a little bit. And it's just because I have so much that's going on. But I want you guys to stick with me because I want to get into what I call Kev's quick hits coming up soon. But I need to take a quick second to also, once again, shout out our sponsor. Josh, feel free to stick around for Kev's quick hits. And then we have one more thing after that. Would you want to? Are you interested?
I could stick around for the quick hits. Sure.
Okay, let's do this. Here we go. But let's take a look at Freedom 2.0. As always, Freedom 2.0. Love them. I will always drink me some Freedom 2.0 when I want that. Oh my gosh, one of my quick hits is not showing up, which means I'm going to have to find it somewhere else. It's about Nicki Minaj. I don't know if you heard anything about that, but
Nicki Minaj. No, I
I
don't.
know. So I usually have all my stuff pulled
Also,
up.
can I just point out, as much as I'm on your show, you've never sent me any Freedom 2.0.
Well, I need to get more Freedom 2.0 myself. One of my last bottles. So
I was like, I've never gotten any.
we will talk about Freedom. We will talk to Freedom 2.0, get you some. But everybody, make sure you go to freedom20.com. You can use code BREAKAWAY at checkout. I think it's like 15 to 20% off. And I'm going to make sure I start putting the link in the comments because I haven't been very good about that. But don't worry, we will do that. Now we're going to get to some of Kev's quick hits. The first one here is Governor Chris Sununu reveals that there are two governors that all the other governors can't stand. New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu, who's a Republican, said during an event this week that many of the governors across the country get along with each other, but there are two in particular that no one likes. And he made these remarks during a fireside chat at the Reagan Institute Summit of Education in Washington, D.C. on Thursday when he was asked by a moderator about how governors can play a bigger role leading the U.S. forward. Take a look and a listen to this clip from that. Here's Chris Sununu here.
Governors are CEOs. Governors have to deliver. So how can governors play a bigger role in leading us out?
Yeah, again, lead by example. And I think, look, almost all the governors get along. I mean, in my 8 years, I can honestly tell you there's really only been two, maybe a third, but two real governors that really nobody liked. Nobody cared for at all. I don't mind.
Would you say who they are?
You really want me to? Yeah, Andrew Cuomo. Complete jackass. No one likes him. And I gotta be honest. No one cares for Gavin. Gavin's just a prick. Excuse me. He just is. It's really disappointing. I got along with him. All of us got along for a while. But even the Democrats, they won't tell you out loud. But behind closed doors, you're like, oh God, look who's coming. They all roll their eyes.
Governors are CEOs.
Thoughts? He comes out. He says Andrew Cuomo and Gavin Newsom were the two governors that no one could stand. Thoughts?
Those don't shock me at all. I don't know how JB isn't on that list because that guy's an insufferable prick as well. But I mean, dealing with him for as long as I did, he sucks. Yeah, I mean that doesn't Gavin. It doesn't shock me that Gavin sucks. He has a face. He looks so punchable. Oh, yeah. Just so punchable. And I hate to say it, but he has that face. You're just like, man, I want to hit you. It's like that scene from Step Brothers. Just I want to hit you. I want to hit you right. You have a punchable face.
No, he absolutely does. I think it's phenomenal. I thought it was interesting that he brought up Cuomo, considering the fact that Cuomo hasn't been a governor for several years now, especially since all of the different allegations against him. But I do want to bring up this next story now because that was the first quick hit. I want to talk about Nicki Minaj getting arrested in Amsterdam. Take a look and listen to this clip here of Nicki Minaj and her arrest that she live streamed.
I'm not carrying drugs.
Okay, but it's not a question here. I think it's.
I'm not carrying drugs.
Inside.
Number one, when I came here,
you can go inside.
I'm not going in there. I need a lawyer present.
You will get a lawyer.
I need a lawyer present now.
Okay, please.
Where am I going? I have no idea where I'm going.
You have to go to the police station.
What address is that?
It's 5 minutes away. It's 5 minutes away.
What's the address of the police precinct?
When you will get your next show, we have to do it very fast, and we will help. But
you're talking about my show?
Yes.
What about it?
Yeah, we talk.
That they will help to try to get you there.
They'll help to try to get me to my show.
So
how?
To do it as soon as possible. But
what am I doing? What am I doing? I never gave anyone. So I'm under arrest.
Yes.
But under arrest for what?
Stop filming now.
I'm under arrest for what? Okay. Do you know what happened when I came here?
You have to go inside.
Huh? What you said?
Can you please stop filming and just step in the car first?
No, I need a lawyer, because I don't know where I'm going.
You will get a lawyer at the office. You can contact the lawyer, but if you just step in the car, then it will go as fast as possible.
And who's going in this vehicle?
So please step.
He will go with you.
So that was Nicki Minaj's arrest. She just got arrested for claims of drug possession in Amsterdam, marijuana apparently within her luggage. What are your thoughts, Joshua? I have a lot of different things to say about this, but I want to know initial reactions to that video there.
That was the nicest arrest I've ever seen. They were so kind to her, and they were just trying to be like, "Can you just please come with us, just please?" And she's like, "No, I need a lawyer." He's like, "Okay, we understand. Just come with us, please." Yeah, they were so nice to her, and she was just being a dick.
Absolutely. Well, that's kind of what I was thinking. Is so like, there's a few things here. Is first off, I think that there's an entitlement that she gets from just being a celebrity, like the "Do you know who I am" kind of belief. But even with that, I just have a firm belief that because of our media recently in the last few years, if you go to another country, before you go there, understand and abide by their laws and customs. And this comes from all, like, 'cause even there was right-wing people that got really angry about a guy that went to Turks and Caicos. He had ammo on him. He had ammunition on him, and they got really mad that he got arrested because he had ammunition on him in Turks and Caicos. It was illegal for him to have ammunition on him. All these problems with that. Okay, well, that was against the law in Turks and Caicos, just as much as it was illegal for Nicki Minaj. I was about to say Nikki Haley. Nicki Minaj to have marijuana on her in Amsterdam, just as much as it was illegal for Brittany Griner to have marijuana on her when she was in Germany, I believe is where she Russia, where she got arrested.
Yeah.
I mean, so the way I see it is respect their laws and customs. Now, at the same time, I don't care how much I dislike you, whether that's Brittany Griner, Nicki Minaj, or the guy from Turks and Caicos. I don't care what level of dislike I have for you. America should be seeking to bring Americans home, period. Like, if you're an American and you want to be here and you're arrested in another country, we should bring you back here. And then whatever your crime is, we should, just as much as like, if a kid gets in trouble at school for doing something that's against school rules, the parents should reprimand them at home for whatever they see as the issue. And so that's what we should be doing.
Yeah.
If you're a citizen of America, but you're not a citizen of wherever you're arrested and in jail, yes, we should get you home and figure out what your crime is here.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I went to England and I was so cautious England's not very different in terms of, it's Western. It's not very different, but I was like, okay, I got to know what laws are there. What are some of the things I can't do? What are things I can't bring? I had to learn all that stuff because I didn't want to get in trouble. I mean, I was afraid I think I was more afraid to speak while I was there because I'm like, I'm going to get arrested for a free speech violation. But like, I was like, I have to know the laws. So I understood and I learned the law, and it's that simple. I mean, it's
exactly, that's why I can't travel.
Yeah.
But no, I just thought that one was very interesting, but I want to get to, because I want to make sure we get to all these quick hits before we end this out. But I want to talk about this one. Hillary Clinton has been in the news. And she's been in the news because she always somehow finds herself there. But Hillary Clinton is still complaining about losing to Trump in 2016, and she blames women for her loss. I'm not even kidding. In an interview about her upcoming book, The Fall of Roe, The Rise of a New America, Hillary Clinton complained about losing the 2016 election to Donald Trump and blamed women for the loss. According to a report by the New York Times, Clinton said that women were the voters who stopped supporting her after the FBI Director James Comey reopened an investigation into her private email server, which she allegedly used to store classified materials and documents. They left me because they just couldn't take a risk on me, because as a woman, I'm supposed to be perfect. They were willing to take a risk on Trump, who had a long list of, let's call them flaws, to illustrate his imperfection, because he was a man. And they could envision a man as a person. So she's coming out. Here's the thing that I think is crazy, is she's coming out with a book, The Fall of Roe, which is definitely supposed to pander to women about the issue of abortion. And she's saying the reason why she didn't win 2016, no longer is it because of Russia. No longer is it because of election interference. No. Now it's because women saw her as imperfect. Josh, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, she's such a loser, and she just continues to lose, and that's all she's going to be known as a loser. I mean, yeah, that's all she is a loser at this point. That's all I can say. That's so funny.
Absolutely.
I do want to tell you this interesting little tidbit. Most of my students did not know that about the Bill Clinton scandal with Monica Lewinsky.
Yeah.
I had to inform them about that. That was really fun.
Really? They didn't know about Monica Lewinsky?
They had no idea.
That's crazy. Well, that's because they're all like 16, so they were born in like 2009, right? 2008?
Even more crazy, most of them did not know that Donald Trump was a reality TV star.
Really?
They've only known him as a politician.
Oh my God.
I know.
Yeah, well, because when you think about it, they were like 8 years old.
Yeah, they've only known him as the man.
Oh,
and then like that's like, did you know he's in like Little Rascals? You know he's in like Home Alone 2? I'm like, yeah, he was a big star before. I'm like, he was. I explained The Apprentice to them.
That's
such an off topic. I just remember that. It was really interesting to me.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
You're on summer break now, right?
Yeah, we just ended last week.
Okay, we're gonna start doing some live streams where it's just you and I talking about the things that your students think, because it's just
it's interesting.
It's just crazy to me.
They're an
It's
interesting
just
bunch.
crazy to me. No, but now I got to get to, because that was Hillary Clinton. We got to get to medical schools are lowering their standards, and so I want to start off with this clip from Don Lemon and what he had to say, and then we're gonna get and I'm gonna show the proof. But we got to talk about Don Lemon first.
All right, that's been a target of yours lately on X. There was a repost of Ben Shapiro that you claim that DEI is killing people. Specifically, you point to medicine. You claim that DEI programs are putting people at risk. Do you really believe this to be true? And what evidence do you have to support it?
What I was referring to there was that if we lower the standards for doctors, such so that they, if the test for a doctor is lowered, then the probability of them making a mistake and killing someone is obviously going to be higher.
Wait, say that again. I'm not sure I understand what you said. I want to make sure I understand what you're saying.
Yes, if the standards for passing medical exams and becoming a doctor, or especially something like a surgeon, if the standards are lowered, then the probability that the surgeon will make a mistake is higher. They're making mistakes in their exam. They may make mistakes with people, and that may result in people dying.
What evidence do you have, though, that they're lowering the standards? There's no evidence of that.
I believe there is.
There's no evidence of that, Elon. What is the evidence?
I believe they have literally lowered the standards at Duke University, and that is what the article was referring to.
There's no evidence.
Saying they have not lowered the standards?
There's no evidence about lowering standards, and I think that
There's no evidence about lowering standards. I'll let him even finish for the 5 seconds that are there.
there is.
I believe that is a false statement you're making.
Okay, well, we'll figure it out.
I believe that that's a false statement that you're making. Well, then we look right here. Whistleblowers at UCLA Medical School say it has dramatically lowered admission standards for minority applicants. As a result, they say 50% of some cohorts now fail basic tests of medical competence. We've obtained shocking internal data. If you look at all the data through these different threads, your doctors, hey, if they meet the certain DEI requirements, it doesn't matter if they pass the test. It doesn't matter if they're competent. It just matters that they're inclusive. Josh, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, so
as an educator too, I think that's important to say.
I mean, listen, everything needs to have standards, and you need to meet the objective standards, and that's it. I don't care what race you are. I don't care what gender you are. If you are the best at what you do, you deserve the job. You deserve to get in. It's that simple. And I think that we are so caught up in this your identity. It's so stupid. I mean, I do good at my job, and I have standards and tests and data to back it up. I'm held to the same standard as a 20-year veteran. They gave me grace my first year because your first year is so hectic. But now I'm at the same level, So experience, doesn't matter. I am held to the exact same standard. I have to the exact same level. That's how it should be. It should just, if you are good at what you do and you have the standard and you meet the standard, whether you're black, white, Hispanic, Indian, a woman, a man, non-binary, whatever you are, if you hit the standard, you're in. It's that simple. I don't get why that's so controversial now.
No, absolutely. But it's going to be controversial. And the reason why it's going to be controversial is because we live in a world that values more the color of your skin rather than the content of your character, the content of your work, your merit as an individual. And that's what we have. I mean, that's what we have in our medical schools. That's what we have to some extent in our law schools. And so if you want to become part of the upper echelon of society, it's not about how smart you are, the amount of thought you have in your brain. No, what matters is the melanin content in your skin, or the amount of you can take up the ass. I mean, really, like that's really what it is. It's because it matters. Your sexuality or the color of your skin, it matters significantly more to the woke in business and in our education fields than actually how much you can do. And that's really the way I see it. And even to prove that further, I mean, you look at things like Hollywood, which brings us to our fifth and final quick hit of the night, which will close out our show, because I don't think I'll have time for the last thing I wanted to do, which, don't worry, everybody. If you like, subscribe, share, and comment, you will not miss a minute. I will still make content for you guys. I will still bring more and talk about things. But I want to talk about our fifth and final little thing here, which, Josh, I wanted your reaction to. George Floyd, who is 4 years sober as of yesterday, May 25th. George Floyd has a biopic coming out called Daddy Changed the World, and it's greenlit, and it's produced by his 10-year-old daughter. The mother of Floyd's daughter expressed hope that the film will reignite efforts to pass the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act. Movie studios and a prominent screenplay writer are working on a biographical movie about the life of drug addict George Floyd, the man whose death in police custody launched a summer of violent protests in 2020. The project will not be a straightforward biopic, but a gritty drama of a man and his community thrust into the fiery light of history. He will not be portrayed as a perfect person, we're told, but as one with flaws and many layers, like all of us. Yes, exactly. Like all of us, there's reports of George Floyd who held a gun to his pregnant wife's belly, just like all of us have before, you know. The biopic, George Floyd, Daddy Changed the World, is reportedly being made by multiple studios, including Radar Pictures, 8 Queens Film, Media Night, Fox Entertainment. The film is family authorized and Floyd's. I don't know. There's so much to this. Josh, what do you think?
So, you know, I know we talked about this on our group chat, is how can his daughters be producers? What honestly what it's probably doing is they made them executive producers so they can make money off of it, so the kids can have money. So then they can, you know, use for college and all that stuff. Honestly, kind of smart, not gonna lie on why they did that. It's actually kind of a smart move from them. Why is this being made? I don't get it. I mean, yeah, I don't. Yeah, you're right. Daddy changed the world. You're absolutely right. He changed the world by by leading to the death of tons of people and millions of dollars in destruction. And yeah, I mean, yeah.
And even like, again, I'm not going to say I think Derek Chauvin was a perfect cop.
No,
I'm not going to say that. But what I will say is he does not deserve to be in prison for the death of George Floyd. George Floyd overdosed. If you look at his autopsy, George Floyd overdosed. He was not a victim of murder, and that might get me banned on YouTube. But I don't care, because the truth is more important to me. The truth is more important to me. George Floyd overdosed. I don't know if the knee on the neck was Minneapolis, was what their police department is supposed to do. I'm willing to bet it wasn't. And maybe Derek Chauvin shouldn't have been a cop. Highly likely, Derek Chauvin shouldn't have been a cop. But George Floyd overdosed, and the media and Democrats and liberals and leftists utilized the tragedy of his death due to an overdose to manipulate the entire country, to divide you on the basis of race, which, once again, even if Derek Chauvin had killed and intentionally murdered George Floyd, even if that was the case, which is not true, it's not the way that it worked out, but even if that was true, there is no evidence that the reason he would do so was race-based. And yet our entire nation got divided on the basis of race. Why? Because it was an election year. And now they're making a biopic on this man. And while the film is reportedly still seeking a director, Greg R. Anderson will write the screenplay. Anderson is most famous for writing Stomp the Yard, which I've never seen, and The Family Business, which is on Netflix, and The Black Hamptons, which is at BET, which is the Black Entertainment Network. So good to know where he stands. But yes, so yesterday was the 4-year anniversary of when George Floyd died of a drug overdose. And now we're going to get a biopic. We're going to get a biopic of George Floyd, a career criminal that overdosed. I just can't believe it. I can't believe that this is the society we live in. I cannot believe that.
Yeah, I mean, biopics are so popular now, and I think that's maybe why they're trying to capitalize on it. I just saw the Amy Winehouse one the other day. Back to Black, very good, by the way, very good.
Came out a few years ago, didn't it?
The new one just came out. Very good. Yeah, I mean, it's so weird. It's so weird. Genuinely, the only thing I can. I try to find silver linings in anything. Only silver lining is at least I know those girls are being taken care of because the kids are innocent in this.
Yeah, I know. I just think it's
silver lining.
I guess I don't necessarily disagree with you. I feel terror. I mean, like, I feel bad for the children.
Yeah.
But when you have people that were a part of his, that are and were a part of his family, that are capitalizing as if he's some kind of a victim. He died of his own accord. This man utilized a fake bill. He had been a serial criminal, and then he died of an overdose. George Floyd was a terrible person. George Floyd was not a good person. If it does not matter the race of the individual, does not matter anything. George Floyd was not a good person, and his death was relatively, or should have been relatively, insignificant. His death should have been relatively insignificant, just as much as his life was. But because he could be used for the narrative, he was. I don't know. Do you disagree? I mean, you can disagree with me. Josh, if you disagree with me, tell me.
I mean, look, I think you made a fair point. Was about Chauvin. Was Chauvin a good cop? I don't know. Was he supposed to? What did he do? What he was supposed to do? I have no idea. I don't know Minneapolis standards. I don't know. I do know that there was another. Just came out. There was a report that he at one point put his knee on a woman's neck too. Okay, so this cop might have been a bad cop.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fair to say that there's bad cops. Same as there's bad teachers, there's bad politicians, there's bad lawyers, there's bad doctors. I mean, we know this. There's bad people. Yeah, I mean, what happened was sad. No, I don't wish anyone to die. But then more people died as a result of it. And that's and a lot of them are ignored. I can't remember the guy's name from St. Louis, the former cop.
Oh, David Dorn.
David Dorn, thank you. That his name. He died as a direct result of the riots. That's not right.
Yep. Absolutely. And it's significantly because they want to divide us on the basis of race. But what we really have is a drug problem in America, and that is the reason why George Floyd died. But that's my thoughts. And Josh, I appreciate you joining me tonight. And I know that we went much over. I went a lot over on time than what I was expecting. But I had a lot of fun. That
always happens with us, I feel like.
Oh, yeah. And we're going to have, these were a lot of planned stories, a lot of things that I had expected to talk about. We'll have other nights where we'll just get on and we'll just talk about whatever has been going on. It's all fun,
I mean,
especially throughout the summer because
yeah, I mean, I'm on summer break. I have graduation coming up here soon, and I'll be home for a little bit. But yeah, please, I mean, just let me know.
Absolutely. And we will. Everybody, to make sure that you don't miss a minute of this, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, subscribe to Breakaway USA, my stuff, anything. It'll always be on all of those different platforms. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, comment, all that fun stuff. God bless you. God bless America. And until next time, you've been watching Speechless.